Got breaking news into CBS Sports HQ. Cooper Kupp is expected to sign with the Seahawks. According to our Jonathan Jones, Kupp went to high school in Yamaca, Washington, which is just 2 hours from Seattle, and he played his college football at Eastern Washington. And here's a look at Cooper Kupp since the Triple Crown season in 2022. 9 games, 118 receiving yards. 2023, 12 games, 737. And of course, in 2024, he played 12 games with 710 yards. Let's now bring in the man of the hour, the man that broke this news to us, Jonathan Jones. Always good to see you. JJ, we've been waiting on this news. There were some reports that maybe he was going to go to Dallas. He had some family ties there. But what can you tell us more about this deal for Cooper Kupp and the Seahawks?
Yeah, there was a little bit of interest, but ultimately nothing that materialized in the form of a deal. I can tell you that Cooper Kupp did have interest from a few other teams, including, but not limited to, the Denver Broncos, who had a great deal of interest in Cooper Kupp. Of course, Sean Payton could have used him like a Willie Snead type, a Lance Moore in his offense after grabbing Evan Ingram. But the Seattle Seahawks, who really were one of the top 2 favorites, maybe even the number 1 favorite to land Cooper Kupp, once we realized that they had a need and he was going to be released, they wind up getting him. And so this is what they get. They get a guy who, yes, he's a Triple Crown winner. There have been more people to have walked on the moon than who have won a Triple Crown in the NFL. But that was a long time ago. And we saw the numbers earlier about how he has struggled to stay on the field the last 3 years. Well, he's 31 going on 32 come middle of June. And I know there's a report out there that this is a 3-year deal. I will be fascinated to look at the actual details of that deal. I would imagine it's probably, for all intents and purposes, truly a 2-year deal, and then a we'll see for the Seattle Seahawks. But after they cut Tyler Lockett, after they traded away DK Metcalf, and after they acquired Sam Darnold, after having, of course, sent away Geno Smith for a 3rd-round pick, they needed some guys to throw the football to. Yes, they have Jackson Smith and Jigba, but they needed a sure-handed wide receiver in Cooper Kupp. I say sure-handed. He's not a burner anymore. There's not going to be that great separator. But on 3rd down, when Sam Darnold's looking around, that 3rd and intermediate, who's he going to be looking for? He's going to be looking for the same guy that Matthew Stafford has been looking for the last several years. It's going to be Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold just said that what he does now with his game is more of a point guard and try to get the ball into his playmakers' hands. And just like you said, Cooper Kupp is a playmaker who needs to get the ball in his hands. JJ, the Seahawks have been pretty active, right, this offseason. Are there any more moves that need to be made for Seattle?
Well, I think you could always look at that offensive line that they have tried to sort of shore up, if you will, over the past couple of years. They've made some attempts. Certainly the interior of the offensive line can always be worked on. But, I think the Seahawks feel pretty good about where they are. Consider that their new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, of course, he comes from the Kubiak tree. Funny how that works out with his surname. But that's who Kyle Shanahan kind of learned from. That's who Sean McVay learned from. So Cooper Kupp, coming from Sean McVay, who teamed up with Shanahan, who comes from that same tree, there's going to be a lot of familiarity. Maybe not the exact same verbiage as what he had with the Rams now in Seattle. Not at all saying that, but consider this. The offensive coordinator now, Kubiak, who he was with the New Orleans Saints last year. Before that, he was with the San Francisco 49ers when Sam Darnold was the backup to Brock Purdy, right? And so now you have this sort of blending of offensive schemes and systems while also having the exact same base. And so it has evolved over the years. And so you have Cooper Kupp, a wily veteran who still has some gas left in the tank. You have a young, up-and-coming offensive coordinator, and you have a quarterback who, a lot of times in free agency, you put all these pieces together, right, Katie? And maybe it doesn't really gel in August. And hopefully, by week 1, after Labor Day, it's going to start gelling. But usually it doesn't. But in this scenario, with so many guys all sort of knowing at least the basics of the language, I think it has a...
Russell Wilson touring potential teams in New York today, talking to the Giants. Yesterday, he visited the Browns. Myles Garrett, fresh off signing his record deal, talked about his pitch to Russ. Listen to this.
Him and I had a little bit of conversation at the Pro Bowl, as well as here. and I definitely think he'd be a valuable asset as a leader, as a mentor to those young guys. That veteran leadership can't be understated, and I think he definitely has some juice left at position. He's plenty of arm left. He's very smart and knows what he's capable of. So that's my pitch. I won't take him to the ground 3 or 4 times a year.
NFL insider Jeremy Fowler joining us once again. Jeremy, what more can you tell us about Russell Wilson's tour this week now that he has met with the Giants?
Well, Russell Wilson has really spent the last 24 hours or so in the New York area meeting with the Giants. He left Cleveland yesterday afternoon, got in early for some dinner to meet with some Giants folks throughout this process. And as far as I know, he has not left yet, so it seems like it's been a meeting that's going well. Cleveland's meeting yesterday was more exploratory in nature. They were just kind of getting to know each other a little bit. They didn't talk hard business or numbers. But the reality is that Wilson stands as really the number 2 in Pittsburgh and New York as we await a decision from Aaron Rodgers, who appears to be, by everybody I've talked to in the league, the number 1 option. And so Wilson has always looked at the Giants, though, at least for the last month, as a viable option for himself. So it could shake out the way he expected.
All right, so Wilson was 15th in the league with 7.4 yards per attempt. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. What are you hearing about his talks with teams as he contemplates his future?
Well, from what I'm told from a source with knowledge of the situation is that Rodgers has offers from both Pittsburgh and New York. As far as everybody knows, he has not made any sort of firm determination on which offer to take. I don't really get the sense that this is all about the money. Certainly it's about fit, ability to win. Both areas, Pittsburgh and New York, have something to offer that are a little different. The prevailing theme from talking to people around the league is that Pittsburgh's the better football decision. New York might be the better decision for sentiment. He was in New Jersey the last 2 years, has a home there. New York's a big marketing hub. So certainly a lot of things that Rodgers is likely weighing. And I checked with somebody with the Minnesota Vikings. I know they are sort of loosely in this thing. I talked to a source who said that it's possible, but probably unlikely at the end of the day because the Vikings are dedicated to J.J. McCarthy's development first and foremost.
Maybe that door still being open, like you're saying, it's possible, is holding everything up with the dominoes. Rodgers, by the way, 8th in the league with 3,897 passing yards in 2023 is the quarterback of the future. Today, Jones asked why it didn't work in the Big Apple.
There's a number of reasons, and you can certainly go back and look at those, pick those apart. I think, reflect on that, see where you could have done a better job, see where you could have, obviously played better and help the team out, in more situations. So I'll always do that. I'll always look back at those things, but, grateful for my time there, grateful for the experience, and excited for this opportunity.
All right, so here's the situation now. In joining Daniel Jones to the incumbent Anthony Richardson, the Colts now have 2 quarterbacks with the worst touchdown to INT ratio over the last 2 seasons among quarterbacks with at least 15 starts. Jones had thrown 10 touchdowns and 13 picks. Richardson just better with 11 touchdowns and 13 picks. It was the season of giving for them as it continues here with NFL analyst Ben Solak joining us now with much more. What can we expect? What can we expect from this quarterback competition? A lot of picks.